In the village hidden in the leaves, a chilling wind swept through the streets, bending the branches of the ancient trees that had stood watch over the village for generations. It was an unusual cold, one that seeped into the bones of every villager and left a whisper of dread hanging in the air. Naruto Uzumaki, now the Hokage, felt the change. His office, usually a place of warmth and light, was shadowed and cool, the papers on his desk rustling as if disturbed by an unseen force. As he looked out over the village from his office window, his eyes narrowed. Something was amiss. He could feel it, a tugging at the edges of his mind, a whisper in the depths of his soul. Later that night, Naruto met with his old teammates, Sakura and Sasuke, at the Ichiraku ramen shop. The place was nearly empty, the usual laughter and chatter replaced by a tense silence. "Have you felt it too?" Naruto asked as they settled into a booth, his voice low. Sakura nodded, her green eyes troubled. "Patients have been coming into the hospital, complaining of nightmares that feel too real. They wake up with wounds, Naruto, wounds that weren't there when they went to sleep." Sasuke's expression was dark, his Sharingan flickering briefly as he looked out into the street. "It's not just nightmares. Something is manifesting here, in the physical world. Animals are found dead with no visible wounds, drained of life, and shadows move against the direction of light." As they discussed the strange events, the wind outside grew stronger, howling around the corners of the building like a mourning spirit. Deciding to investigate, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke split up to gather more information. Naruto visited the Umbu headquarters, where he was shown reports of increased spectral activity in certain areas of the village, places where the air felt thick and where time seemed to slow down. The Umbu captain handed him a scroll, the edges charred, the content detailing an old legend Naruto had thought was just a story to scare young ninjas. It spoke of a cursed era when the village was tormented by a spirit known as the Shinobi Gaki, a vengeful entity born from the malice and despair of defeated enemies. Meanwhile, Sakura went back to the hospital to research the medical records, looking for patterns or anomalies in the recent cases. She discovered that all the affected patients had something in common. They had all visited the village cemetery on the day their symptoms began. Delving deeper, she found old medical reports filed away under folklore and myth, reports that documented similar occurrences happening once every century. Sasuke ventured into the forest surrounding the village, following the trail of the dead animals. Using his Sharingan, he traced the residual chakra left in the wake of these unexplained deaths. It led him deeper into the forest, to an ancient part of the woods where the trees were so tall and thick, little sunlight broke through their canopy. Here, he found a clearing, at the center of which was a stone monument, cracked and overgrown with moss. It pulsed with a dark chakra, the air around it vibrating with the energy of something old, something angry. As night fell, they reconvened at Naruto's office, each sharing their findings. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, forming a picture more horrifying than any of them had anticipated. "We need to seal it again," Naruto decided, his voice resolute. "Whatever was done centuries ago to pacify this spirit, it's weakening. We need to renew the seal." Armed with ancient texts and their own formidable powers, they prepared for a confrontation. They knew this was no ordinary enemy. It was a specter of the village's dark past, a manifestation of accumulated pain and vengeance. As they approached the clearing Sasuke had discovered, the temperature dropped, their breath visible in the air. Shadows danced at the corner of their eyes, flitting just out of sight, and whispers filled the air, voices begging for help, voices threatening death. The monument in the clearing glowed with a sinister light as they formed a circle around it, each preparing their jutsu to reseal the shinobi gaki. But as they started the chant, the ground beneath them trembled, and a figure rose from the shadows, its form blurred and shifting, eyes glowing with malevolence. The spectral figure that emerged was a swirling mass of darkness, its edges flickering like the flame of a candle caught in a tempest. The shinobi gaki's face, or what should have been a face, was a mere void, save for two deeply glowing red eyes that seemed to burn with an unholy fire. Its presence was overwhelming, suffocating, as if it could swallow the light from their very souls. Naruto steadied himself, focusing his chakra. "Stay focused," he called out to Sakura and Sasuke, his voice firm despite the rising dread. "Remember, it feeds on fear." Sasuke, eyes narrowed, activated his Sharingan, the spinning tomo allowing him to perceive the creature's movements with supernatural clarity. "It's not just about sealing it away. We need to weaken it first," he said, analyzing the flow of its dark chakra. "I'll try to bind it with my Susanoo." Sakura prepared her own jutsu, her hands glowing with green chakra as she readied to heal any injuries the entity might inflict. "I'll support," she declared, her determination clear. As Sasuke called forth the ethereal armor of Susanoo, enveloping himself in its protective embrace, Naruto began forming the Rasengan, infusing it with as much power as he could muster. The wind held around them, the clearing now a battleground between the forces of light and the deepest shadows. The shinobi gaki howled, a sound that was not just heard but felt, vibrating through their very bones. It charged, faster than expected, a blur of darkness aiming directly at Naruto. Sasuke intercepted, his Susanoo clashing with the entity. The impact sent shockwaves through the forest, uprooting trees and scattering leaves into the whirlwinds surrounding them. Naruto seized the moment, darting forward with the Rasengan. "Now, Sakura!" he shouted. With precise timing, Sakura unleashed a powerful Kai, a burst of purifying energy that momentarily stunned the shinobi gaki, revealing a core of swirling, corrupted chakra. Naruto drove the Rasengan into the core, the collision of energies lighting up the night sky with a blinding flash. The shinobi gaki shrieked, its form destabilizing, but it was not yet defeated. It retaliated with a surge of dark energy, knocking them back. Naruto and Sasuke skidded across the ground, struggling to regain their footing. "We need more power," Naruto gritted through clenched teeth, feeling the strain of the battle. Sakura ran to their side, her healing hands quickly restoring their strength. "Let's use a combined jutsu," she suggested, her mind racing through possibilities. Pooling their abilities, they focused their chakra into a single, potent force. Naruto and Sasuke synchronized their energies, while Sakura amplified it with her own, creating a trinity of power that none of them could have mustered alone. "Ready?" Naruto looked to his teammates, seeing their shared resolve. On three, Sasuke confirmed, his eyes reflecting the flames of battle. 1, 2, 3. Together, they unleashed the combined Jutsu, a radiant beam of energy that pierced through the darkness, targeting the shinobi gaki with unerring precision. The entity writhed, its form dissolving under the assault, until with a final, ear-piercing scream, it exploded into a cloud of dissipating shadow. Exhausted but victorious, they watched as the last remnants of the shinobi gaki vanished, the atmosphere of the forest clearing feeling lighter, the malevolent presence gone. The stone monument, once a source of dark power, now stood inert, harmless. Breathing heavily, they collapsed to the ground, relieved but wary. Had they truly defeated it? Or had they merely sent it back into the shadows from whence it came? "We did it," Sakura said, a weary smile touching her lips. "For now," Sasuke added, ever the realist. "But we'll be ready if it ever returns." Naruto looked between his friends, their faces illuminated by the rising sun filtering through the trees. "Together," he affirmed, "always." As the dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of gold and pink, the Hidden Leaf Village seemed to awaken from a long nightmare. But in the hearts of those who had faced the darkness, the vigilance remained, a constant guard against the night. As the village stirred to life under the early morning sun, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke made their way back, their bodies weary but their spirits bolstered by their victory. The village seemed peaceful, almost idyllic, with children playing in the streets and vendors setting up their shops. But beneath the calm surface, the memories of the night's horrors lingered, a stark reminder that darkness could return at any moment. Back at the Hokage office, Naruto convened a meeting with his advisors and other key shinobi. "We've pushed back the threat," he began, his voice carrying a weight of responsibility that he felt deeply, "but this is a temporary victory. We must stay vigilant and increase our patrols around the village, especially at night." Shikamaru Nara, ever the strategist, nodded in agreement. "We should also consider strengthening our barrier jutsu," he suggested. "If there's a chance this entity can return, we need to be prepared to contain it more effectively." Meanwhile, Sakura took it upon herself to visit the village's archives. With the help of the village historian, she delved into ancient scrolls and texts, searching for any information that might shed light on why the shinobi gaki had targeted their village and whether it was truly defeated. The dusty tomes spoke of old wars, lost spirits, and curses laid down by enemies long forgotten. Each piece of lore she uncovered hinted at cycles of peace and disruption, a pattern that seemed to repeat throughout the village's history. Sasuke, on the other hand, focused on training the younger generation of shinobi. If the threat returned, he wanted them to be ready, to understand the nature of the darkness they faced. In the training grounds, he pushed them hard, teaching them not just physical techniques, but also the mental resilience required to face such supernatural threats. Days turned into weeks, and the incident began to fade from immediate memory, becoming another strange tale in the rich tapestry of the village's history. But for those who had faced the shinobi gaki directly, the peace felt uneasy, like the calm before another storm. One evening, as Naruto walked through the village, his eyes caught a peculiar sight, a shadow that moved against the wind, slipping quietly between the buildings. His heart raced as he followed it, his mind alert to the possibility of danger. The shadow led him to the village cemetery, a place of rest for those who had passed. As he entered, the temperature dropped, his breath visible in the air, a sign that chakra disturbances were afoot. The graves were undisturbed, but the air was thick with a palpable sense of unease. Naruto's gaze fell on a new gravestone, one that he hadn't seen before. It bore no name, only a symbol, a warning, perhaps, or a marker of some forgotten pact. As he studied it, the ground beneath him trembled, and a cold wind swept through the cemetery, whispering words that chilled him to his core. Sakura began the incantation, her voice echoing through the trees. As she chanted, the others focused their chakra, following the intricate pattern of the seal laid out in the scroll. The air crackled with energy, the ground vibrating underfoot. Suddenly, a piercing scream rent the air, a cold wind whipped through the clearing, and shadows coalesced into the form of the shinobi gaki. It was more terrifying than before, its form larger, its eyes burning with a malevolent fire. "We must complete the ritual," Naruto shouted over the howling wind, his own chakra flaring brightly as he maintained his part of the seal. The battle to keep the shinobi gaki contained while completing the ritual was intense. The entity lashed out, trying to break the circle, its dark energy clashing with the light of their combined chakra. Just as the entity seemed to be gaining the upper hand, a bright light descended from the sky, a beam of pure energy, the combined will and power of all the Kages, channeled through Naruto, forming a spear of radiant light that struck the shinobi gaki directly. The impact of the combined chakra was monumental, the ground shaking beneath their feet as the shinobi gaki writhed and held under the onslaught of pure energy. The forest around them seemed to respond, the trees bending away from the epicenter of the conflict as if in fear, their branches shaking in the tumultuous wind that the battle had conjured. Naruto, standing firm at the heart of the circle, his eyes blazing with determination and power, focused all his will on maintaining the intensity of the seal. "Hold on," he yelled to the others, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of the wind and the creature's cries. Sakura, her hands forming the final signs of the incantation, chanted louder, her voice rising to a crescendo as she drew on the life energy around her. The ground beneath them glowed with a bright, verdant light, the life force of the forest itself lending its power to their cause. Sasuke, his Sharingan active, monitored the flow of chakra, adjusting the seal in real time to counteract the shinobi gaki's desperate attempts to break free. "It's weakening," he shouted, noticing a flicker in the dark aura that surrounded the entity. The other shinobi, including those from the allied villages, reinforced the barrier, their combined strengths forming a barrier of chakra so dense it was almost visible as a shimmering wall of light. They moved as one, a dance of power and precision that had been honed over decades of shinobi warfare. As the ritual neared its completion, the shinobi gaki, now visibly smaller and less substantial, let out a wail that was more of a plea than a threat. Its form began to dissipate, unraveling like smoke in the wind, its essence being drawn into the seal. Sakura finished the incantation with a final, powerful word that echoed like a thunderclap through the clearing. There was a moment of absolute silence, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, and then a brilliant flash of light enveloped the clearing. When the light faded, the shinobi gaki was gone. In its place, at the center of the seal, lay a small, black stone, pulsating weakly with what remained of the entity's chakra. Naruto approached cautiously, his eyes wary. He bent down, picking up the stone with a cloth to avoid direct contact. "It's contained," he stated, his voice a mix of relief and fatigue. He turned to face the group, who were all watching him with a mix of exhaustion and anticipation. "We need to secure this. It can't be destroyed, but it can be kept out of the wrong hands." Plans were quickly made to transport the stone to a secure location, a vault built deep beneath the Hokage's office, designed for the containment of objects of immense power and danger. The stone would be sealed away, guarded by an array of protective jutsus and physical barriers, ensuring that the shinobi gaki could never threaten the village again. Returned, not gone, the cycle continues. The words hung in the air, a malevolent promise or a curse. Naruto stood firm, his resolve hardening. "I won't let you harm this village," he declared into the chilling wind, his voice strong despite the dread that filled him. He quickly gathered a team of Umbu, directing them to secure the cemetery and begin an investigation. Something was amiss, and he needed to get to the bottom of it before it was too late. As the investigation unfolded, reports came in of similar disturbances in other parts of the village, shadows seen out of the corner of an eye, whispers heard in empty rooms, and a general feeling of being watched. It became clear that whatever they had faced was not an isolated incident, but part of a deeper, darker pattern that had ensnared the village. As Naruto convened with his council of shinobi and elders, the room buzzed with a tense energy. Each member had been briefed on the recent occurrences and the unsettling sense that the village's peace was once again hanging by a thread. "Tsunade," Naruto turned to his predecessor, seeking her wisdom. "You've dealt with similar threats in the past. What can be done to strengthen our defenses against such an ethereal enemy?" Tsunade, her expression grave and thoughtful, leaned forward. "The spirit world is vast and complex, Naruto," she began, her voice steady and authoritative. "In the past, we've used seals combined with powerful barrier jutsus to contain such threats. However, this shinobi gaki seems different, more cunning and powerful than anything we've encountered before. We might need to look beyond what we know, perhaps even seek alliances with other villages or consult with experts in spirit matters outside our usual contacts." Shikamaru interjected, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "We also need to consider that this entity might not be working alone. The disturbances suggest a level of coordination and intent that is troubling. We should increase our intelligence efforts, both within and beyond the village borders." Agreeing with Shikamaru's assessment, Naruto nodded. "I'll reach out to Gaara in the Sand Village and the other Kages. We need to be united in our response to this." Meanwhile, Sakura continued her research into the ancient texts, her days spent in the dim light of the village archives. One evening, as she pored over a particularly old scroll, she stumbled upon a reference to a ritual used centuries ago, a ritual that was said to cleanse an area of malevolent spirits permanently. Excited by this discovery, she rushed to share it with Naruto and the others. "This could be what we need," Sakura explained, her eyes bright with a mixture of hope and urgency as she laid out the scroll on Naruto's desk. According to this, the ritual requires several powerful shinobi to work in unison, channeling their chakra into a seal that not only traps, but also purifies the evil presence. Sasuke, who had been silent, spoke up. "It's worth a try, but we should be prepared for the possibility that the shinobi Gaki will resist. It won't be like any battle we've fought before." With the council's agreement, preparations for the ritual began. Naruto contacted the other Kages, explaining the situation and requesting their support. One by one, they pledged their assistance, sending shinobi skilled in spiritual matters to aid in the ritual. As the designated day approached, the village was on high alert. The shinobi from the other villages arrived, each bringing unique skills and powers to bolster the defense of the hidden leaf. The air was thick with anticipation and the weight of impending confrontation. On the night of the ritual, Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, and the assembled shinobi gathered in the clearing where the shinobi Gaki had first manifested. They formed a circle around the ancient stone monument, which glowed ominously under the light of the full moon. Before Naruto could react, the figure vanished, as if it had been made of smoke, leaving behind a cold spot in the air and a new sense of dread in Naruto's heart. Rushing back to his office, Naruto summoned Shikamaru and Sakura, quickly briefing them on his encounter. "We need to be ready," he said, his expression serious. "I don't know what this means, but we must prepare for whatever comes next." Sakura nodded, her medical mind already considering the implications. "I'll check on the patients who were affected before, see if there's been any change or recurrence of symptoms." Shikamaru frowned, his strategic mind working through the possibilities. "I'll coordinate with the Umbu and increase surveillance. Whatever this new threat is, we'll catch it early." As they set their plans into motion, the village slept, unaware of the new shadows creeping into the edges of their peaceful lives. Naruto stood at his office window, looking out over the village, his resolve hardening. Whatever this new challenge was, he would face it head-on, protecting his village, his friends, and his family. The night was deep and full of unknowns, but he was ready. As the village of Konoha drifted into the quiet of the night, Naruto remained vigilant in his office, his thoughts plagued by the mysterious harbinger's warning. The quiet only amplified his concerns, each shadow cast by the moonlight through his window seeming to shift and stir with potential threats. In the early hours of the morning, Naruto received a sudden and urgent message from Shikamaru. It read, "Situation at the northern gate. Immediate attention required." Without hesitation, Naruto leaped from his desk, his Hokage cloak billowing behind him as he rushed towards the location, his mind racing with possibilities of what could have prompted such an urgent summons. Upon arriving, Naruto found Shikamaru and a group of Umbu operatives standing tense and alert around something on the ground. It was a dark, writhing mass, seemingly a shadow, but with a physical presence that made the air around it feel thick and heavy. The mass was pulsating, as if breathing, and with each pulse, it seemed to grow slightly. Shikamaru, his expression more serious than usual, briefed Naruto quickly. "This appeared suddenly, minutes ago. It's not attacking, but it seems to be growing, absorbing something from the ground or the air. We can't tell yet." Naruto knelt by the mass, observing it closely. His proximity to it made him feel a chill that seeped right into his bones, a sensation that was unsettlingly familiar. "This could be what the Harbinger was talking about," he murmured, more to himself than to anyone else. He ordered the Umbu to set up a perimeter and not to let anyone near until they understood more about the nature of the mass. As they worked, Naruto contacted Sakura, asking her to come to the northern gate immediately. When Sakura arrived, she too sensed the abnormal nature of the mess. After a brief examination, she looked up at Naruto with a worried frown. "It's not just a shadow. It's almost like it has its own chakra, but unlike anything I've ever felt before. It's cold, almost devoid of life." Naruto's mind raced as he considered their options. They needed more information, and they needed it quickly. "Sakura, see if you can take a sample of its energy safely. Shikamaru, contact Sai, have him bring his sealing equipment. We might need to contain this before it becomes something we can't handle." As they prepared their respective tasks, the mass began to change shape, morphing slowly into a more humanoid form. This new development caused a stir among the Umbu, their hands going to their weapons instinctively. "Sakura, any progress?" Naruto asked, his eyes fixed on the slowly forming figure. As the group disbanded, each returning to their respective duties and homes, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke lingered in the clearing, looking around at the forest that was already beginning to recover from the night's disturbances. "We did it," Sakura said, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion. "Yes," Sasuke agreed, "but we should remain vigilant. There are other dangers, other secrets in the shadows." This was not the end. Naruto nodded, his gaze thoughtful as he looked out into the darkened woods. "The life of a shinobi is never without danger," he mused. "But as long as we stand together, as friends and as allies, there's nothing we can't face." With that, they each took their leave, heading back to the village that was now safe once more, thanks to their efforts. The night was still, the earlier chaos subdued, and as Naruto walked back, he felt a deep, abiding sense of duty. The village was his home, its people his family, and he would do everything in his power to protect them, no matter what darkness lay in wait. In the days following the containment of the Shinobi Gaki, the Hidden Leaf Village returned to a semblance of normalcy. Naruto, ever vigilant, increased patrols around the village perimeter and strengthened the Umbu's presence within the village. Though the immediate threat was over, the experience had left a lasting mark on everyone involved. One evening, as the village bathed in the gentle glow of the setting sun, Naruto walked through the marketplace, his eyes scanning the faces of the villagers. Their smiles and laughter were genuine, but Naruto could sense the undercurrent of unease that still lingered. The shadows of the past haunted them subtly, a reminder of the fragility of peace. As he passed the Ichiraku ramen shop, the delicious aroma of ramen beckoned him. Deciding to take a moment to relax, he sat down at his usual spot and was soon greeted by Tuchi, the owner, who served him his favorite dish. "Naruto, it's good to see you taking a break," Tuchi remarked, his face wearing its familiar, comforting smile. Naruto nodded, managing a smile. "Yeah, it feels like things are getting back to normal," he replied, though his voice carried a hint of reservation. Tuchi set down a bowl in front of him. "You've done so much for this village, Naruto. Everyone's talking about how you've saved us all again." As Naruto ate, his mind wasn't entirely on the food, delicious though it was. He was thinking about the black stone now locked away beneath the village, the embodiment of malice that they had fought so hard to contain. He wondered about the other threats that lay hidden, unknown, and waiting. Later that night, As he walked back to his office, a sudden chill swept through the air, a familiar sensation that made him pause. Looking around, he noticed a faint flicker of movement in the shadows. Alert, he followed it, his steps silent. The flicker led him to the village cemetery. The gates creaked ominously as he pushed them open, the sound disturbing the silence of the night. Inside, the graves lay bathed in moonlight, their shadows long and eerie. Naruto's heart pounded as he moved deeper into the cemetery. Then, he saw it, a shadowy figure standing by a new grave, one that hadn't been there before. The figure was cloaked, its face hidden, and it seemed to be performing some sort of ritual. Naruto approached quietly, then announced his presence. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" The figure stopped, turning slowly. The face that looked back at him was masked, only the eyes visible, gleaming red in the moonlight. "I am a harbinger," the figure spoke, its voice a whisper that seemed to echo around the cemetery. "Your actions have consequences, Naruto. You have contained one darkness, but awakened another." "I think so," she replied, her hands glowing with a subtle green chakra as she worked to extract some of the entity's energy without making direct contact. "It's like it's made of pure negative energy, almost an anti-chakra." Before she could continue, the figure stood upright, its form now distinctly human, but with features that were blurred and shifting. It looked at Naruto, and in a voice that echoed like a whisper from the depths of a cavern, it spoke, "You cannot bind what you do not understand, Hokage. You cannot fight what is part of you." The cryptic message sent a shiver down Naruto's spine. "What do you want?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the unease that the entity's presence caused. "To exist, to feed, to become," the figure replied, its voice gaining strength. As it spoke, Naruto felt a drain on his own chakra, subtle but undeniable. He took a step back, signaling to the others to be ready for anything. Realizing the immediate danger, Naruto quickly formed a hand seal, preparing to defend himself and the others. The entity, observing his actions, seemed to pulse with a darker energy, its form becoming more defined, more menacing. "Sakura, back off," Naruto ordered as he noticed her energy waning from her attempts to analyze the shadowy figure. She nodded, retreating to a safer distance, but keeping her medical ninjutsu at the ready to assist if needed. Shikamaru, ever the strategist, analyzed the situation with a critical eye. "Naruto, this thing is feeding on our chakra. Conventional attacks may only make it stronger. We may need to think outside the box here." Naruto gritted his teeth, frustration mounting. He knew Shikamaru was right, they needed a different approach. "Ideas?" he shot back quickly, his gaze never leaving the dark form before them. "We could try isolating it, cutting it off from any chakra sources," Shikamaru suggested, already motioning for Sai, who had just arrived with his sealing tools, to prepare for a containment jutsu. Sai nodded, quickly setting to work, drawing intricate seals on several large scrolls. These scrolls were designed to suppress and contain chakra, potentially enough to at least temporarily immobilize the entity. Meanwhile, the entity continued to speak, its voice chilling. "You seek to bind me, but you do not understand that I am not the intruder here. I am a shadow cast by your own light, a balance to your power." As Sai laid out the last of his scrolls, forming a perimeter around the shadow, Naruto considered the entity's words. They echoed with a certain truth, a disturbing reminder of the potential darkness within every shinobi that they must constantly keep in check. "Activate the seals," Naruto commanded, deciding that pondering the philosophical implications of the creature's existence would have to wait until they had ensured the village's safety. With precise coordination, Sai activated the seals, and a barrier of light encircled the entity. For a moment, it seemed to strain against the containment, its form flickering like a flame under a gust of wind, but then it stilled, trapped within Sai's barrier. The relief was palpable among the assembled shinobi, but Naruto remained cautious. "Keep it contained. I want constant surveillance on this thing until we figure out what it is and how to permanently deal with it." Turning to Sakura, he asked, "Did you get enough data for any kind of analysis?" Sakura, looking somewhat pale but composed, nodded. "Yes, I managed to collect some of its energy. It's unlike any chakra signature I've ever seen, cold, almost void of life, as I said, but also deeply familiar." Naruto frowned, pondering her words. "Familiar how?" "It's like it's a part of us, part of our own negative emotions and energies. Perhaps that's what it meant by saying it is a shadow cast by our light." The implications of such a discovery were profound and troubling. If the entity was a manifestation of their own negative energies, then could it ever truly be destroyed? Or would it simply rise again, feeding on new fears and darkness within them? As they mulled over these questions, Naruto knew they needed more expertise. He decided to consult with other knowledgeable figures within the shinobi world, perhaps even reaching beyond the hidden leaf to other villages. "Let's keep it contained for now. Sakura, analyze the data you collected. Shikamaru, coordinate with Umbu for constant surveillance. Sai, make sure those seals hold," Naruto instructed, his voice carrying the weight of his office. "We're not done here. Not by a long shot." As the night wore on, the Hidden Leaf Village remained a beacon of light against the darkness, its leaders ever vigilant, aware that the peace they cherished was as fragile as it was hard-won. But for now, the immediate threat was contained, and the village could sleep a little easier, even with the shadow of unknown threats lurking just out of sight. As the village settled into a wary peace, Naruto sat in his office long into the night, pondering the complex nature of the entity they had captured. The idea that it was somehow born from the negative emotions and energies of the village's inhabitants was disturbing. It suggested vulnerabilities within the village that had gone unaddressed, perhaps for generations. Over the next few days, Sakura conducted her analysis with a meticulous precision that only she could muster. Her findings were unsettling. The energy samples she had collected were not just void of life, they seemed to actively consume life force, thriving on the fear and despair around them. "It's like a cancer," she explained to Naruto during one of their meetings, "feeding and growing, always hungry for more." Meanwhile, Sai's seals held, but the effort required to maintain them was enormous. The barrier had to be reinforced regularly, draining resources and manpower that could have been used elsewhere in the village. The containment area became a place of grim watchfulness, where teams of umbu rotated in shifts, their expressions tense and eyes constantly wary. Naruto knew this was not a sustainable solution. He needed advice and possibly assistance from outside the village. He sent missives to his fellow Kages, detailing the situation and requesting any insights they might have into similar phenomena. The response was a mix of concern and intrigue. Gaara, now Kazekage, was particularly interested, his reply hinting at ancient legends of the Wind Country that spoke of shadows born from the desert's endless solitude. He agreed to visit Konoha to discuss these legends in person, hoping that the old stories might shed some light on the current situation. As the village awaited Gaara's arrival, reports of minor but strange occurrences began to increase. Shadows seemed to linger longer than they should, cold spots appeared randomly throughout the village, and several people reported seeing figures out of the corners of their eyes, figures that vanished when looked at directly. These incidents kept the village on edge, and the atmosphere was one of suppressed panic. Naruto did his best to reassure the villagers, but he too felt the creeping dread that seemed to be slowly enveloping Konoha. When Gaara arrived, his presence brought a momentary uplift in spirits. His calm demeanor and strength were reassuring. In a closed meeting with Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru, Gaara shared what he knew. In the Wind Country, we speak of the Akumu, spirits that are born from great desolation and loss, Gaara explained. They are said to be shadows, feeding on the living energies of people, thriving on despair. The legends say that they cannot be destroyed, only appeased. Appeased how? Sakura asked, her brow furrowed in concentration. The legends are vague, Gaara admitted. But they mention rituals of balance and renewal, ways to cleanse the spiritual pollution that gives rise to such entities. Naruto listened intently, his mind working through the implications. If these Akumu are similar to what we have trapped, perhaps we need to look at what caused it to appear. If it's born from our negative emotions, then maybe we need to heal those wounds, not just seal away the symptom. Shikamaru nodded. A more holistic approach might be necessary. Perhaps involving Ino and her team in this could help. Their mind techniques could be crucial in understanding the depth of this issue. With a new strategy in mind, they planned their next steps. Ino would lead a team of Yamanaka clan members to delve into the collective subconscious of the village, seeking to understand and, if possible, heal the traumas that might have given rise to the entity. As preparations for this new approach were underway, Naruto stood on the Hokage monument, looking out over the village. The weight of his responsibility felt heavier than ever, but also clear. Protecting Konoha wasn't just about fighting enemies, it was about caring for the heart and soul of his people. Under the growing shadow of unease, Ino and her team began their intricate work. They set up a network of mental links, a web woven through the collective unconscious of the village's inhabitants. This was no small feat. The process required delicacy and precision, as the minds of the villagers were fragile and laden with fears both spoken and silent. Ino, focusing deeply, navigated the undercurrents of communal anxieties. "There's so much fear," she reported to Naruto during one of their briefings. It's not just about the entity we've trapped. There's older, deeper fears, losses from past attacks, the pain of the Fourth Great Ninja War, and even further back. It's all accumulated, like layers of sediment. Naruto listened, his forehead creased with worry. So, it's our own unresolved past that might be feeding this thing? He asked, seeking clarification. Exactly, Ino confirmed, her expression somber. To truly resolve this, we need to address those underlying issues. Our current efforts are just a band-aid. Meanwhile, Gaara collaborated with Shikamaru to analyze historical records, looking for patterns or similar occurrences in the past that might provide a clue on how to proceed. There's mention here of a festival of renewal that used to be held annually, Gaara pointed out, showing a scroll to Shikamaru. It involved the whole community, a kind of collective cleansing and reaffirmation of life. Maybe it's time to revive that tradition. Shikamaru nodded thoughtfully. A communal approach might help restore the village's spiritual health. Let's propose this to Naruto. As they prepared for the Festival of Renewal, an event designed to unify the village and heal old wounds, Sakura continued her medical observations. She noted a gradual decrease in the reports of shadow sightings and unexplained chills around the village. It seems the very act of coming together, preparing for the festival, is already having a positive effect, she remarked to Naruto. The day of the festival arrived, bright and clear. The entire village participated, everyone involved in various rituals and activities designed to foster community spirit and collective healing. There were musical performances, shared meals, and public acknowledgments of past hardships and resolutions for the future. Naruto, standing before the gathered villagers, felt a surge of pride and hope. Today, we come together not just as a village, but as a family, he declared, his voice echoing through the crowd. We acknowledge our past, our losses, and our fears, and we choose to move forward together, stronger and united. Naruto stepped forward, his eyes blazing with determination. We've faced greater evils together, and we've always emerged stronger. This time will be no different. With a coordinated effort, they began the ritual to confront and cleanse the entity. The seals flared with light, and the barrier shimmered as if straining under the pressure of the dark force within. The shadowy figure writhed, its form becoming more distinct and terrifying as it fought against the containment. You cannot destroy what is born of you, it screamed, its voice echoing through their minds, trying to instill doubt and fear. Naruto's voice was steady, unwavering. We are not here to destroy. We are here to heal, to bring balance. As the ritual reached its peak, each shinobi poured their energy into the barrier, their wills united against the darkness. The entity shrieked, its form flickering, trying to lash out, but the combined power of their resolve held it at bay. Sakura's hands glowed with a purifying green chakra, which she directed into the seals, aiming to cleanse the dark energy. Gaara's sand formed a protective barrier, reinforcing the containment. Shikamaru used his shadow possession jutsu to bind the entity, preventing it from escaping. Naruto, at the center, channeled the full force of his chakra into a Rasengan, infused with the positive energy of the village's collective will. He stepped forward, the spinning orb glowing with a brilliant light. "Now," he shouted, thrusting the Rasengan into the heart of the shadow. The impact was explosive. Light and dark energy clashed violently, creating a shockwave that knocked everyone back. The ground trembled, and for a moment, it seemed as if the very fabric of reality was being torn apart. But then, with a final, agonized wail, the shadow dissolved, its dark energy dissipating into the air, leaving behind nothing but a faint whisper on the wind. As the dust settled, the shinobi slowly rose, their breaths heavy but victorious. The containment area was quiet, the oppressive feeling lifted. The entity was gone, its threat neutralized. Naruto looked around at his friends and allies, his heart swelling with pride and relief. "We did it," he said, his voice hoarse but filled with gratitude. "Together, we did it." The village of Konoha could finally rest easy, knowing that the darkness had been banished, not just by force, but by the strength of their unity and the purity of their resolve. As they walked back, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, they knew that they had faced their deepest fears and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever the future might bring. As the first rays of dawn illuminated the Hidden Leaf village, the sense of relief was palpable. The villagers, unaware of the night's battle, went about their morning routines with a renewed sense of peace, oblivious to the darkness that had been vanquished while they slept. Naruto, Sakura, Shikamaru, and Gaara stood at the containment site, the remnants of their powerful jutsu still crackling in the air. "We did it," Sakura repeated, her voice filled with both exhaustion and triumph. But even as she spoke, a lingering unease settled over the group. Naruto scanned the area, his senses still on high alert. "Let's not lower our guard just yet," he cautioned. "We need to ensure that nothing was left behind, no remnants of its power." As they began to inspect the site more thoroughly, Shikamaru's shadow manipulation revealed something peculiar. A faint, almost imperceptible wisp of darkness, hiding in the ground where the entity had been contained. "There," he pointed, his voice tense. "There's something still here." As the festival drew to a close with a grand display of fireworks, Naruto and his team felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. The air was lighter, and even the earth beneath their feet seemed to hum with a renewed energy. The next morning, Naruto, accompanied by Sakura, Shikamaru, and Gaara, visited the containment site. To their amazement, the dark mass, once pulsating with a malevolent energy, had diminished to no more than a faint shadow, barely visible. "It's as if the village's healing starved it of the energy it needed to survive," Sakura observed, a note of wonder in her voice. Shikamaru, always the strategist, cautioned, "We should keep monitoring it, make sure it doesn't regain strength." Naruto agreed. "Yes, and let's make the Festival of Renewal an annual event. It's clear we need to maintain our spiritual as well as our physical defenses." As they left the site, the early morning light casting long shadows behind them, Naruto felt a renewed sense of commitment to his role as Hokage. The challenges were ongoing, but he knew that as long as they faced them together, Konoha would endure. As the days passed, the village seemed to thrive under the renewed sense of unity and purpose brought by the Festival of Renewal. The oppressive shadows that had once haunted Konoha appeared to dissipate, leaving behind a brighter, more hopeful atmosphere. However, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that something still lingered in the corners of their consciousness, an unease that gnawed at him even in moments of tranquility. One evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the village, Naruto received an urgent message from Sai. "Hokage, you need to come to the containment site immediately," the note read, terse and filled with an unspoken urgency. Naruto quickly made his way to the site, his mind racing with possibilities. As he arrived, he found Sai and several Umbu members standing tense and alert around the containment barrier. Inside the glowing seals, the faint shadow had grown darker, more defined, and it pulsed with a sinister energy that seemed to hunger for release. "We thought it was weakening," Sai said, his voice edged with concern. "But it's been feeding off something else, something deeper. I fear we underestimated its resilience." Naruto's eyes narrowed, his resolve hardening. "We need to end this, once and for all," he declared. "We can't let this entity continue to threaten our village." As they prepared for a final confrontation, Sakura arrived with Shikamaru and Gaara, each bringing their unique expertise and determination. "We've been studying the energy patterns," Sakura explained. "It's as if the entity is drawing strength from an unseen source, possibly the unresolved fears and pains we thought we had addressed." Shikamaru added, "We need to cut off its source of power, disrupt its connection to those dark emotions. But to do that, we must face it directly, in a battle of wills and chakra." Gaara, his expression calm but intense, nodded. "I will assist with my sand techniques. We need to contain it completely while we sever its ties to the village." As the night deepened, they formed a circle around the barrier, each shinobi channeling their chakra into the seals. The air vibrated with their combined energy, and the ground seemed to hum with anticipation. Naruto summoned his chakra, his eyes narrowing. "Let's finish this." With a coordinated effort, they channeled their remaining energy into a final cleansing jutsu. The wisp of darkness resisted, twisting and writhing, but it was no match for their combined power. As the light enveloped the shadow, a chilling scream echoed through the clearing, and then silence. For a moment, the air was still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then, a gentle breeze swept through the clearing, carrying with it the faint scent of blossoms. The oppressive weight lifted entirely, leaving behind a feeling of true peace. "It's over," Gaara said, his voice calm and steady. Naruto nodded, but a part of him remained vigilant. He knew the nature of darkness. It never truly disappeared, always lingering at the edges of light. "Let's get back to the village," he said. "We need to reinforce our defenses and make sure everyone knows what to do if something like this happens again." As they walked back, the first light of dawn casting long shadows behind them, a sense of closure settled over the group. The village awoke to a new day, one that promised hope and renewal. But the events of the past weeks had left an indelible mark on their hearts, a reminder of the balance between light and darkness. In the days that followed, Konoha thrived. The Festival of Renewal became an annual tradition, a time for the village to come together and heal, both physically and spiritually. The containment site was transformed into a place of remembrance and reflection, a reminder of the strength and unity that had saved them. Yet, even in this time of peace, Naruto remained watchful. One evening, as he stood atop the Hokage monument, looking out over his village, he felt a familiar presence beside him. "Kakashi-sensei," Naruto greeted without turning, recognizing the quiet arrival of his former mentor. "Naruto," Kakashi replied, his voice carrying a mixture of pride and concern. "You've done well. The village is safe because of you and your friends." Naruto nodded, a small smile touching his lips. "We did it together. But I can't help but feel that this won't be the last time we face such darkness." Kakashi's gaze followed Naruto's, the village below bathed in the soft glow of twilight. "You're right. There will always be shadows. But as long as we stand together, we can face anything." Naruto turned to his mentor, his eyes filled with determination. "We'll be ready for whatever comes next." As night fell over Konoha, the village lights twinkling like stars, the shadows danced in the gentle breeze, no longer threatening but a natural part of the balance. The darkness had been defeated, but the vigilance remained, a silent promise that the light would always prevail. And so, the Hidden Leaf Village continued to thrive, its people bound by the strength of their unity and the unwavering resolve of their Hokage. The peace they had fought for was hard-won and deeply cherished, a testament to the enduring spirit of Konoha.